And you don't have to give people permission. Is that?
I do remember, I'm surprised she was let in. Did Tammy ask somebody else?
I hope so. Yes,
Yeah,
there
she
she
did.
is.
Great, good.
Betsy's hand.
It's a close up.
She probably is trying to turn off her camera.
Yeah, she
Yes,
is.
Tammy played with him.
Hi Betsy, we see you in your kitchen.
Betsy iPad.
I know, I always put Betsy, but I don't have a last name to go with it, so.
There she is.
Right, thank you.
Oh, is that the modified agenda?
I don't think it did get modified.
Oh, I thought you added a couple of things to it.
Wow,
Here it is.
That was in case.
Compare.
Thank you.
Modified?
You don't need my
Right,
address.
I don't know.
That's fine, thank you.
Nope.
It doesn't. Need-
no,
at least on those two
yeah,
people.
no, I don't think so.
Hey, Ben.
Hi, what we doing?
Ben, how are you? No, wait a minute, you look scared, bro.
I don't know. Throw all my clothes away and buy new ones. I'm almost afraid to do that. I jinx myself.
I hear you. Save it for another 6 months.
Yeah.
All right, it's 6 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. We can start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Under God.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? No? Any conflicts of interest, anybody? No? We have minutes from several meetings to discuss. Judy sent us the minutes from the April 21st meeting. I guess we could start with those. Did people have a chance to review those?
I did. I like Tammy's additions or modifications.
Did anybody have any other changes?
No.
Can I hear a motion to approve
So
the,
moved. Second.
all in favor? That's all 5 of us. So then, we had a special select board meeting on April 24th. The primary reason for it was a matter that had to be resolved for our auditor. And because they needed the minutes to be approved that same day, you will remember that I typed them as we sat here and we approved them before we left the room. And I see that there was a word omitted at the bottom of page 1. This related to a discussion about the school board's proposal called Article 21. And I believe, I'll make a motion to correct this. It should say, if the school board does not wish to defer a vote on Article 21, the select board will hold a special select board meeting at 5 o'clock on Monday. So, does anybody else want to say anything? Second, whether that
I will
word,
second it.
okay.
Change.
Any other discussion about correcting that omission on my part?
No.
Okay, all in favor of amending those? That's all five of us.
I mean, just quickly, so you did the notes, are those something you're gonna send to Bill?
Yes,
Send to
I will
Bill?
take care of correcting these and sending these to Bill because
All right.
you weren't there. That
Great,
was a
thank you.
short meeting that day. Then we also have the April 28th workshop minutes from our meeting with the Comprehensive Plan Committee. Did people get a chance to review those?
Yes.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion that we approve those?
I so move that we.
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor? That's all five of us. Okay, thank you.
All these minutes.
All right, we've been meeting nonstop around here. Are there any communications from the public that relate to something that is not on the agenda for tonight? Yes,
You'll come up in, there'll be an opportunity for public comment. And
It
that's-
will, okay,
Yeah,
okay, great.
oh, sorry,
Didn't know
okay,
where, so I
Yeah,
just.
yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
you want to,
Which would have been a communication, had they not shown up here tonight, I would have passed it on.
Okay.
Just about let them speak. The only other communication I received was a similar, request for the town to, do something about a neighbor's dog that is continually coming onto, somebody's property. It's on our agenda that we do have a dog ordinance, so maybe there will be discussion later on, but just, wanted to note that I'm receiving additional requests from new residents.
all right, did any select board members have communications from the public to share?
No.
No, Tammy, no. Did Tammy disappear? She'll probably come back. So the warrant for expenditures. First we have the town's warrant. And I have one question, Irene, I think I know the answer, but, where it says 10 Cold Storage Road renovation on the bottom of page 2. And there's a disbursement to Hamilton Marine for $2,107.50. I was just wondering why that isn't here versus the Cold Storage Road disbursements.
Okay, so you're seeing that on the general fund district?
Yes, it's on the page that starts with town office, you know, this long page. Here, I can send down the one I made my note on.
I am not sure why that's not on the 10 Cold Storage Road account. If it's part of the construction, it should be 10 Cold Storage Road.
What was it,
account.
$2,000?
Yeah, is it?
Was. It's the nylon rope that runs between the pilings, is
But
sort of.
it's on the
So it is on the
general
run.
fund account, and then yeah, it's on the general fund account. It's not written on the 10 Cold Storage Road bank account.
That's weird. It was coded to cold storage, so.
But that's just a matter of a journal entry. I can get that corrected.
Thank you.
Okay, so that will move over.
Yes.
And then I had a question at the very end where it lists the money you sent for various fees that are taken in at the town office, like when you register your dog and boat and all that stuff. Does the town keep part of that money or is it all a pass through to the state?
Where it says GL account.
Yeah,
Those are monies that we have taken in that are already required to go to those other places.
right, but when you register my car and I pay money, does any of it stay with the town? Or
Yes.
does it? So
Yes,
some
that-
stays
for-
with the
for-
town.
Right, for vehicle, the excise tax stays with the town, the other fees go to the state.
Okay, and we don't keep any portion of those.
We keep the excise tax, we do not keep the other fees.
So even registering a dog, the state gets the
So,
fee?
yes, yes.
Okay, just wondering.
We have to, I think it's $6 we have to send to the, no, I guess it's $3 we have to send to the state.
They maintain a registry, but
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah,
It costs more than $3 to register your dog, though, doesn't it?
right, we get to
$6.
keep some of it
Okay.
to help offset the
That
cost of
answers
the
Right, right.
animal control officer and so forth.
So then looking at the cold storage road warrant, I was wondering what else you're expecting to come in for down there.
Everything else that's remaining, paving, grading,
Okay.
pile cap, I don't know, I'm sure Dan could give you a more complete list even, some work on the boat ramp, striping the lot. All of the sort of loose ends, I expect them all to come in this month. And I expect our reimbursement to come in from the EDA around within the next couple weeks as well, so it should all hopefully be lining up.
That'll be wonderful when we get that money.
Yes.
Sounds good.
I had a question on the warrant for the signs, the 5,000 something for the signs. Which signs are those?
What's it coded with?
Those are the signs that were ordered through Amazon,
Was it not declined?
yes, that Karen needs to reorder.
Why did it show up if we didn't purchase them?
Because when they got ordered, I put it on the warrant, and we're still gonna buy them.
Yes,
The select board still needs to sign off on them.
okay, yeah, we have not purchased them yet, but these are the electronic feedback.
That's what I thought. I
signs
just
for-
checking.
Yeah.
That's what they
Okay.
Oh.
seemed the right amount.
Yeah,
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 So
that's
this
all.
is amount for how many signs?
two signs.
Two. Ah. Still have money left over.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do.
Great.
Any other questions on the treasurer's warrant? All right, then, we can sign those.
So there's one for the general fund and there's two for the 10 Cold Storage Road.
Okay.
Do you want to do public comments and then we'll do, okay, now, you want to share your public comment?
Sure, I'm Jim Cole, we're over on Fenmere Road. We were just down to the new town dock and I was, I had not seen it before and it's just really fantastic. They're really doing a really nice job, there. It's beautiful. I just wanted to encourage, the select board to consider, including, pump out station at the dock. The only pump out station we have in town is the one over in Tennant's Harbor. And it's,
Will you explain to the select board what a pump out?
what is
station
pump out station? So it's mostly boats that have a head can pump out the raw sewage into a holding tank. And it doing that is preferable to going out beyond the 3 mile limit and dumping it in the ocean. What we have here in St. George is a dock sort of that floats in the middle of Tennant's Harbor, and you can tie. We've done it several times. You can tie up to it. The problem with it is that it's just out there in the middle of the harbor. It's very hard to keep it clean. So it gets a lot of birds and a lot of crap all over the place. And so when you use it, you end up getting back on your boat. You got a real mess to clean up. And you can have a pump out station on a dock, and it's much easier to keep that clean. Would be very nice, I know for us, and I'm not sure how many other people would, this has been thought about. Seems like now that we have this nice dock, it would be a nice opportunity to have something like that. I'm not sure what the cost would be. But it's just something I'd like you all to consider.
Dan, was that something that the harbor committee ever considered during the planning process for cold storage?
Interestingly enough, the one that's in Tonawanda was originally scheduled for the new facility. But because of the delays in the new facility, we set it up in Tonawanda. And I believe Dave has all the details of it. I believe Dave obtained, from DEP or one of the state agencies for little or nothing for the town. And, I can't remember that there's some costs to obtaining one. And Dave bypassed most of those costs originally, but I can't, other than that, I don't know.
So it was in the original design and then just.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But not to be on the dock, right? To also be out in the harbor somewhere, I assume. based
I don't
on-
know that it ever, got to the point where we decided, I don't think it did.
Mhm.
I think the idea was the town would obtain one for that facility.
Mhm.
We obtained it, but the facility wasn't ready.
Mhm.
And, instead of not using it, let's use it and put it to a solid. So,
And my understanding is that, there's not a ton of room right in the harbor, so it's a bit on the outskirts of the harbor. It can get a
Yeah.
little choppy and
Yeah.
it's not as well protected as.
The biggest problem with what is, if you got a blowout there, it's, it moves around a lot when you're tying up to it, but that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is just, keeping it clean when it's out in the middle of the harbor. It's a real mess. And there's no way to have a hose out there or anything, so there really isn't any way to keep it clean.
Well, it sounds like it's worth having the harbor committee discuss this, and if you have a new recommendation for the select board, bring it to us. Okay,
Well, I was gonna say, if we've been able to get one in the past, maybe we can just investigate what we might do for a second one, and
I suspect requests like this is just the tip of the iceberg. When the facility starts being used, we're gonna see a lot of different ideas.
Mhm.
good point.
Right,
Yeah, we've known that there would be a learning curve with this well after it was open to see how it was most being utilized and so. The one piece I will add is that, what's in the budget for next year is upgrading the harbor master's boat. And that should have some sort of hose feature on it that would make, maybe more routine cleanings of the pump out station a possibility. I feel bad signing him up for something when he's not here, but that is an alternative that could be coming down the line as well.
were there any other public comments that relate to something not on our agenda? No, all right, well, we have a special announcement. And we ask members of the harbor committee to be here tonight. Because we're so grateful for the effort that you all made in getting the town landing to where it is right now, and very soon it's gonna be done. And as you heard from folks here tonight, everybody's very impressed with what it looks like. And so this year's town report is dedicated to the harbor committee. So, and I, so yes, thank you guys. Yes, Dan, I know
Yeah,
you,
but Dan's been with it right from the beginning.
Right. so, because these need to be, available and circulated before the town meeting, we had to sneak in this recognition tonight, and I'm sorry not all the members of the harbor committee could be here, but, it's really extraordinary the time you all have put in to this and what a great facility it's gonna be, how much we're all gonna enjoy it.
I think it's a project that really, captures what can be really special about St. George, and that's when both progress and preservation meet a crossroads. a facility that is for the future, but still maintains the history of our community and its working waterfront. And I think this project captures that so well. And so I think you all should be really proud of it. The fact that you all made this happen through a volunteer effort is truly remarkable. So
Yes.
wanted to express the gratitude.
I had a full head of brown hair when it.
So am I allowed to give them these? All right, so you guys can stay if you want, or you can take your annual reports with you.
Thank you very much
All
for
right.
that.
Steve
That's
wants
quite
to-
a,
Steve wants to take a picture of
quite a
you
compliment.
getting here.
Yeah, I probably had a little bit of black hair with this.
You don't need me in it.
Get it? Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the recognition, Jay. Thank you.
You guys have done so much.
Oh, we're not done yet, but.
That's
we-
right.
We'll get there.
Thank you very much.
We've gotten to be pretty
Thank you,
close for
Steve.
this.
And about 15 other members of the select board that we've dealt with. over-
That's right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just wanna say that this present select board, I'll take my hat off to Jane. She came in before she was on the select board and helped us with it and got us through a lot of the learning curve that we did, because we didn't know a lot about town government and all that stuff.
Still don't.
No.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. We're a fortunate community.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
Appreciate
All
your
right.
pumping a suggestion too.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for considering this.
And it was lucky who was here for that
Yeah,
discussion.
well, yeah,
The Harbor
Brian said
Committee.
this would be a good meeting.
Right.
Job, yeah.
I
Right.
started because I told them that there would be one at the new facility, only to learn later that I was wrong. So
Oh, okay.
I was like, come to the meeting, I'm gonna make this suggestion.
Well, lots of things have evolved
Yes.
there. So the next thing on our agenda is approving the warrant from the school district budget meeting that was held on April 30th last week. And because we've had a meeting in the last 2 weeks since then, I just thought that I would recap what happened before we signed this. Regarding Article 21, at the April 24th special select board meeting, the select board voted unanimously to ask the school board to defer consideration of Article 21. And they said they did not want to do that. And they told us to come to the district budget meeting with any concerns that we had, which we did. And Article 21 passed. So just so if people read the last couple select board minutes, this will show, what happened,
The
the
nature of
last-
our concern.
the nature of our concerns and what the outcome was. And then with respect to Article 27, which is the $1.4 million bond for the school's heating and cooling system. You will recall that the school board asked the select board, the town, to apply for this bond on their behalf because they had learned that they couldn't apply independent of the town. And they met with the budget committee of the town and the select board on March 24th. And they stated to us that they would be making the payments, the repayment of this debt out of the school's budget. And so, and in fact, Mike Felton, during his presentation at the school district budget meeting last week, did include a PowerPoint that showed that they're making the payments. And he came in and signed the loan application. So, and Article 27 passed last week in addition to all their other articles. So I just wanted to have the history of that made clear before we sign the district budget warrant articles. Did anybody else want to say anything about that? Okay, I see we have a school board member on Zoom. I just wanted to make sure, Mallory, if you wanted to say anything, you had a chance. Okay. So the next, did the TIF contract come off the agenda?
It's next.
I know, but didn't you send me an email that we weren't ready to do it? Cause I didn't send it to anybody. I thought you told me we weren't ready. Or was that just the resilience climate action plan contract that we're not ready? We can do it.
That one, yeah,
Well, since nobody's seen it, we'll just do it in 2 weeks.
all right.
There's no hurry. Sorry about that. We had a miscommunication. So we have a proposed, good night.
Good night.
We have a proposed contract from MCOG to help us develop a proposal for a tax increment finance program. We have an ad hoc committee that's working on that program, which will go to the voters later this year, early next year. So we'll circulate that, I'm sorry. So the next item on the agenda has to do with the lighthouse. Brandon, you wanna tell us where things stand?
Yeah, we contracted Gartley and Dorsey for bid administration for the repairs to the walkway. We received 3 bids. I reviewed those bids with Nat. And essentially, my recommendation to the select board is that we reject all 3 bids. The low bid, we did not feel like his resume inspired much confidence for the work that would be required at Marshall Point. And then the next 2 bids were just quite more, frankly, much more costly. And so the plan for financing this, just to keep in mind, because we do not have tax dollars committed to this when FEMA works in a reimbursement system, is that the Marshall Point Lighthouse Committee is going to finance this through a line of credit and some fundraising. And then that the town would reimburse them once we received FEMA funding. All of this has been run through Bill Kelly and he has signed off on it. And so what I would ask is that this group rejects the 3 formal bids that we received from that process. We did receive a 4th bid outside of the process that is a little bit different because the other 3 bids, all the work was scheduled for the fall. This 4th bid is scheduled for May and June. It is the lowest of the 4. And so, and frankly, the only one that the Lighthouse Committee is able to finance besides the low bid that we didn't think was qualified to do the work.
So when you said it was outside the process, you mean you got this 4th bid after the date closed?
Yes, and it was not submitted to Gartley and Dorsey. It was submitted to the Lighthouse Association.
Okay, but we have the authority to accept this one, even though it came in outside the parameters of the RFP?
Yes, Bill Kelly's advice is that it's really a different contract than what the other bids were. For one, the schedule is the biggest thing. This is the only one where the work is getting done in the next 2 months. That, alone is a significant factor. Yeah, exactly. The fall, when the other 3 were scheduled, is the busiest season for the lighthouse and the museum. It's where they make most of their money. And so it would really hurt for them to close during that time. The other piece here is that, the town is not financing this. And so, because the Lighthouse Association is, Bill Kelly says that we're well within our right to.
Okay, so
reject the
that's
three.
another reason we don't need to follow the RFP
Mhm.
process.
So Brandon, now you brought up with the other, the low bid being the question of qualification
Mhm.
in the original three. What about this group that we're talking about now that would do the May, June work?
Oh, highly qualified. His resume is lighthouses. He is a highly reputable contractor for this type of work, which Bill Kelly reviewed as well. He reviewed Jim Leslie, this contractor's resume.
That's his name, Jim Leslie.
Mhm.
What's your opinion, Nate?
With what he has done, and that is exactly what he does, is restore lighthouses and keepers houses and everything. He's worked with Gartley and Dorsey before. He's well known at the Maine Preservation Commission.
Great.
And I am very comfortable, because I do remember when I was working on the boat line, he was going out to Monhegan to work on the lighthouse out there. And we had a little conversation about Marshall Point and everything. And it took me a while to realize that I should have contacted him a lot sooner, but, and Chris and I are both very comfortable with him and his.
Glad to hear that. And that was the question.
So I'm happy to make a motion that we accept Jim Leslie's bid for the work.
I think
So-
your motion should first be to reject the three bids.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we reject the initial three bids that we got in response to our request for proposals about the
Second.
lighthouse. Tammy
Second.
second. All in favor? Say aye. And I guess my question about the Jim Leslie contract is that gonna be with the town or the Lighthouse
No,
Association?
the contract will actually be with the Lighthouse Committee. With the town being a third party in it. And so Bill Kelly is working on the contract with Leslie as well as an MOU that spells out the arrangement for the three parties, but essentially it's a contract between the Lighthouse Committee and Leslie. We're a third party so that we can receive the invoices and then pay out, because if we don't receive the invoices, we can't apply FEMA funds to this
Right.
project.
And it's town-owned property, so, all right, well, I'll make.
Well, yes,
Sure.
but they handle repairs and. pay
No,
and
right,
invoicing for
according to
all-
the lease, right,
Yes,
we have with them, I understand all that.
What's the amount of the bid from Jim Leslie?
$124,500.
And could you just say a little bit about what it will do with the walkway? Well, the specs are Gartley and Dorsey specs. That when the town initially went out to bid, went to anybody who was interested, and I myself had sent them the three what concerns that I thought would be able to do the work, and all three turned them down. So the work that he's going to do is what is called for in the specs from Gartley and Dorsey.
And this involves the granite blocks under the walkway.
Right, everybody thinks it's a walkway, but it's not the walkway itself, it's the support
Right,
structures
I am
underneath
aware of
it
that.
that really took the brunt of the whole thing. And,
The walkway's pretty intact in itself.
Right now, hopefully it stays.
right, yeah, and, I mean, he has, resourced, locally, equipment that he needs and the concrete and all that and everything. And we're pretty lucky that he's fitting us in because
That's great.
got probably 5 or 6 other projects. He just came off of Idaho. He just has finished working on the Keeper's House out on Vinyl Haven. Goat Island wants him to do stuff and it's just not lighthouse. He's into historic preservation houses and stuff.
That's
So
great.
that's where the connection with the historic commission is, and I think you know me well enough that if I wasn't really happy with them,
Right,
I would not be.
Did you pipe up?
yeah, all right, well,
I mean, in summary, Steve, the big concern is the where the walkway comes to the land.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's all washed away. We got all kinds of pictures. You might have seen my ski pole there indicating what's dangling there. So that needs to be a brand new structure. The next pier after that is pretty shot. That needs to be totally rebuilt. And the other 2 or 3 piers that are mentioned in the specification got twisted around, but are fairly intact. So they need to be repositioned, anchored to the ledge, and then have the walkway fastened to them.
Sounds good.
All right, well, I'll make a motion that we, approve an agreement with Jim Leslie as, prepared by our lawyer and the Lighthouse Association and Mr. Leslie, and whatever memorandum of understanding goes along with that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That's all 5 of us.
So I'm authorized to sign off on that
Yes.
one. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, we won't need to see it again. You
Great.
guys can just take it and run with it.
Good.
Well, I'm
you.
so happy. I know you were eager to get this done before the summer crowd, and I hope he can pull it off.
Well, this has been, between the lease
Yeah,
and here, it's been a experience.
yes.
Nat and I have become well acquainted in my.
Yes, we have. haven't we?
Wow.
Even with Brandon's presence.
Yeah, even with my daughter, yes, Lupin has joined some of our meetings.
Oh, good. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. So the next item on our agenda is, and I should have done this when the harbor committee was here. Talking about, we need to make plans for a grand opening night for the Port Clyde Landing. Brandon, why don't you tell us what you're thinking about timing?
Well, I believe that our main contractor for CPM will be all wrapped up by May 20th. That is the plan anyway. And there may be a few things that are separate from the main contract, like our security cameras and the green space, getting some of that planted, that will not be done by the 20th, but hopefully right around then. So, you know, I think that we could be looking at a June 1st opening where for the most part, the site will look like it's completed itself.
Well, June 1st is a Sunday. You just mean early June.
Yeah, right.
Cause when you and I talked, you were thinking, especially, you know, June or weddings and graduations, that maybe a weekday evening was gonna be the best
That's right.
choice, right? You wanna
Did
look
we
at the
say middle
town,
of June? Did we say the?
well, look at the town calendar and see what's on those first 2 weeks. On like Thursdays are our lightest nights.
June 12th, I believe, is what we looked at.
Does that seem, what are people thoughts about that? Tammy, any thoughts? What time?
I won't know until June 12th. There's always something going on every night, but if it's planned ahead, I will fit it into the schedule and.
Well, so why don't we choose that as a tentative date? And if you can talk to Dan and the Harbor Committee guys and Ryan, you know, the more people who were involved in this in the last 10 years, the better. Richard Bates, there were lots of people that worked very hard to make this happen. So we'll try and put something together then.
Maybe we should have a party with music and food.
Yes,
Make it really
I
festive.
think that would be really nice.
If it's just speeches, it might not get the biggest turnout.
What
That's-
time?
Well, what time do you think?
6?
6,
Got lots of daylight that time of year.
right?
6.
All right, so
Six
that's
sounds good too. What was the tentative date in June?
June 12th,
June 12th, Thursday, June 12th.
but that's, we'll confirm that after checking with the Harbor Committee and Ryan. Did you want to say anything else about the dog ordinance?
Oh, I didn't You asked me to put that on there.
I know, I did, because, well, I remember a couple of meetings ago, you said somebody raised the question of should we have a dog ordinance, and then, you know, like a week later, I'm thinking, wait, I know we have one, because we had trouble with our neighbors' dogs like 20 years ago or something, so.
Do we
So,
know what it states?
yes, if you look on the town's website and you type in the search bar, dog ordinance, it comes up.
Really?
Yes, what I remember, and this is just off the top of my head, so don't hold me to it. Is that if a dog were barking consistently for more than an hour, you know, that the dog warden could come down and cite somebody or something, which
Is
was,
the dog warden the animal control officer?
yeah, animal control officer. And we also had issues with dogs that our neighbors would let wander onto our property, and when we weren't there, we would rent it out, and then people would have little kids who'd be afraid of the neighbors' dogs that would come charging over their barking, and so the animal control officer did come and talk to our neighbors and work that out.
So when I get these requests, should I direct the residents to our animal control officer? Is that the recommend?
I don't know, Brandon, this is your job.
All right, that's fine. I can take it from here.
Here.
Great, you got it.
You talk to him
Sounds
and ask him
reasonable. It
what
sounds
the-
Well,
reasonable.
there are times where ordinance enforcement, you want to have a say in how.
I
you know
agree with
about it,
that.
And other times that you don't, so I was checking.
What's the underlying issue with this particular resident?
Well, the two communications I've had recently are neighbors' dogs constantly on their property.
Yeah.
Barking and,
Right.
you know, dog waste on their
Yeah.
property
Mm.
and all of that.
Defecating.
Mm.
I mean, maybe the ordinance, I didn't read it closely, I just remembered that we had one. I think at the time that we had an issue, we called the animal control officer ourselves, but people are usually probably gonna call here. You know, so whether you are the intermediary or just give them his phone number,
Great,
we leave it to you.
great.
Thank you. So now we're up to your report.
All right, traffic safety update. You may have seen around town, we are repainting sidewalk or crosswalks and, sidewalks would be nice. Repainting crosswalks and putting the signs out. Unfortunately, our electronic feedback sign that we have had the last few years, that's affectionately known as RoboCop, is experiencing some sort of issues with its battery. It's not working right, and so we're trying to get that one repaired. Meanwhile, we are trying to order a couple more. We thought about ordering more than two, but we wanted to make sure that these two models worked out well before we were overly invested in it. Otherwise, we've continued to collect data, try to figure out if there are any patterns for areas in town in which there are more accidents or where traffic safety is you know, the most prevalent of a concern. And we'll continue to do so.
Right, like any traffic calming measures we can take on the main streets of Port Clyde and Tennis Harbor and of course Clark Island Village too are really important.
Yeah, those are not really the areas where there are ever many accidents, surprisingly.
No.
Coming into Tenants Harbor over by, you know, sort of over by Jane's house is a common spot, but the
one
village,
near,
We had a very dramatic
in front
one
of
there.
Wildcat,
yeah,
right,
right,
in case people don't know where I live.
right. But the villages actually do not see many accidents. I know that we remember big, memorable, you know, tragic accidents, but from a data perspective,
But I think the concerns that people have brought to the select board are because of their fears for pedestrian safety and children in the villages. And that's why we've heard a lot about that, even if fortunately there haven't been,
And if people are barreling through town at 40 miles an hour, it changes the character of the village. It doesn't feel safe, even if it is statistically safe.
Yeah, and you know, that's what I'd want to, that's some of the data that we are intending on collecting. You know, to find out, are people actually barreling through Tenants Harbor at 40 miles an hour or not?
so the signs that you bought, will they keep, data in them that you can download?
Yes,
Cause I know when the ad hoc traffic and safety committee group existed last year, they were told that our sign could do that, but then it wasn't actually possible to get the data downloaded. So it'll be interesting to see if these are different. I hope so.
yeah, I hope so too. That was, one of the main reasons we wanted to purchase them, so.
Great.
Sometime this summer, we will be having, an emergency plan tabletop. So Ryan Klein is our emergency director. And, you know, we have an emergency plan. We actually have an emergency plan committee who is not that active, and it is being folded over into the emergency services committee who is active. And so I believe you all signed off on our emergency plan at the beginning of the year, maybe back in January. And so
We did?
I believe so.
I don't think so. I mean, at least, so what, how this came about, this whole emergency plan conversation was, you know, when you open up our website and it lists the committees that we have, it says we have an emergency plan committee. But there is no such
nothing
committee, they never meet. And I know that I remember last year when Ryan Klein became our emergency plan director, and succeeded Tim Polkey in that role. But then I looked at the emergency plan on the website and it is not signed by the select board. So I asked Ryan whether that was approved or not, and he was gonna check. I mean, I don't think it's been approved since we,
I'm not sure that you all would remember,
okay.
but I will double
Quite
check with.
possible.
I will
That's
double
right.
check with Ryan.
Okay.
And I would like to remind folks that it is your own policy that the website is not ever our official record. And our official record exists here in the office, and the website's purpose is supplementary. And we will always have aspirations for it to match the official record as best we can, but that it is not, the end all be all. for
No,
what is
right.
No, you've got a good point. And
No,
I
right.
remember the emergency plan group meeting, because Diane was the secretary, and I remember her doing the notes.
So
So
that
it
was,
wasn't all that long ago.
well, more than 2 years. 'cause
Yes, more
not-
than 2 years,
yeah.
yeah. 3.
Okay, so as Brandon said, given that that committee has not met in the last 2 years and since that time, we have formed an emergency services committee. I've talked to Ryan and Richard Bates, and they both agree that the emergency services committee can advise Ryan whenever he's updating that plan. And the idea being that he's gonna do sort of a training, is that what this tabletop is for us?
Yeah, so that you all are aware of your plan, you can run through some scenarios, figure out, you know, what types of responses should be in place. So
Good, good.
Ryan won't lead it, somebody from the state comes in
Okay.
and leads it, and so we wanted to get through town meeting and then maybe even St. George days and then look at, you know, late
Right.
summer or so to do it. I just say the piece about the website because the old website, it was so difficult to find things or upload things that it was far from complete. And now our new one is so user-friendly that it becomes the easiest way to access, you know, our records. But we still need more time to make sure that it is going to be, complete and reflecting everything that is up to date. So,
That's really
So if-
important.
It's really come along, it really is.
Yes, it's great. If you could confirm that the emergency plan that exists was approved.
I believe it was right after, or right, like the same meeting that Ryan became this director.
Okay, well, if
So,
you could just send us a copy
Great.
since I don't remember it, and it would be good for all of us to read it in case there were an emergency before we have this tabletop.
Mhm.
It would be good for all of us to know what it says.
Yep.
Thank you.
Very expensive.
There will be an open house at the Youth and Scouting property this Saturday. It will
Go to that.
begin at 10 a.m. and run until at least 1 p.m. Potentially longer, depending on who from their group can be there to keep it open and, and be available. So I encourage you all to go check it out. Jane saw it recently.
I thought it was, I had never been there before, and it's charming and you can really see the potential. I'm excited about that.
And we'll make sure that we promote it out to folks, this week so that they are aware and know what they are voting on and have a chance to be informed on that.
Good.
Wonder if there could be an outdoor sign here at the town office, like we do for some certain events. On the day of, anyway.
I will look into that. We may have retired our outdoor sign.
Okay. People tend to really see those signs when something's going on.
John Malte was using it last and he had to use a lot of like upside down numbers and letters, and that may have been its last.
Catch more
Last
attention that
gasp.
way.
That was very funny. Well, I know when the Historical Society puts those signs up by the side of the road, I think they do attract a lot of attention, and people are more likely to attend if they see those event.
Mhm. Yeah, I will
Like
see.
the school and library signs.
Right.
Those are.
I might be able to have Steve even just paint up a couple small signs. One by Snows Point or Wiley's Corner Road, and then one outside of the town office.
Great.
Another open house that we will be having is here at the town office. This is going to be July 16th. I believe the time. I believe it's 3 to I'll just check. 3 to 7. And the idea is that every department will have some sort of representation there. If you have had a question about your property and how come the tax map says you have 10 acres more than you think you have, or whatever it may be, you can just come and ask your questions, and then while you're there, learn about the community paramedicine program or the new, regulations around Port Clyde Landing or whatever it may be. So just being available a bit outside of our office hours and everybody all at once. I invite and encourage the select board to set up a table. There are going to be certain things that it would make sense for you all to be the ones to be available for, things like the TIF district or personal property tax and what our plan is for that, or, a myriad of issues that you all maybe want to be the ones to represent.
Okay.
Things that fall outside of the departments of town. So.
All right. Anything else on your report?
I met with Judy and Rodney last week about parking at Drifton Beach. They shared what I thought was a really great proposal around some signage that could be put up, maybe a sign by the ramp that explains, why there can't be parking on the pavement for emergency vehicles and so on, turning sort of the two shouldered areas that people currently park at into loading and unloading zones, which I thought, was a great idea. I think maybe Tammy mentioned that at a meeting. And then really trying to direct folks to the parking lot. And so, I thought it was a great idea. I would, love to move forward with that plan and with the plan of really just stronger enforcement around parking in Port Clyde this summer in general. I think the timing of this lines up really well with the opening of a new facility, and so easier to let the public know that, parking in Port Clyde will be enforced. There are a lot of parking options now. Please utilize them. Use the public landing instead of parking along somebody's fence, and, use the designated beach parking lot instead of the, somebody's yard and so.
Since you're the road superintendent, do you need anything from the select board, or can you just do those things, execute without?
I think that I can just do them, but I believe at the last meeting, you all had asked me to bring a plan back to you,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. No,
that's what I-
informational, thank you.
Sounds good.
Right, that was all I had this
You
evening.
guys will be in the dump truck anyways on parade.
Yeah. All right, so committee reports, the planning board.
The planning board met on April 22nd. The application that was being considered was the subdivision, the Dizer subdivision on Walston and Turkey Cove. And it's still being considered a preliminary application. They went through the performance standards, and one of the big issues is whether the houses are gonna have sprinkler systems, because right now, they're not planning a storage tank or a fire pond. And it's a little different because it's not a developer making this application, it's the owner, and the owner's gonna sell the lots. So the application is considered incomplete at this moment and will be considered again at the next meeting, and there'll be further discussions about fire safety issues. Beyond that, we had discussions of growth areas in the town with the comprehensive plan members who attended.
And that was helpful, thank you. I had a question, since I was one of the comp plan people that was there. So does our subdivision ordinance require subdivisions to have sprinkler systems?
You have to do something on the fire safety side, either a storage tank with X amount of gallons of water to service all the houses, or a fire pond, or have a sprinkler system in each house. And so the way it would be done, because there's no developers involved, is put a restriction on the deed for each parcel.
What type of restriction?
You'd have to, in this case, if they go with the sprinkler on your deed, it would say housing or dwelling must contain a sprinkler system.
Because they're just gonna sell you a lot and you're
Right.
gonna build your own house.
Right,
But you'll be
Right.
obligated to do that, right?
right.
That was interesting, I didn't know that. The Board of Appeals has had no appeals, right?
Right.
The Harbor Committee,
There's not-
so, yeah, what's happening with the Harbor Committee is the signs at the landing. So somehow, I don't know how I got roped into being involved in signs, but anyway. Carl Danielson and Ryan Klein and I have met. What the Harbor Committee wanted was two signs. One that you would see from, as you arrive in Port Clyde by boat, that there would be a kind of a large sign that said, "Welcome to Port Clyde," that you would not be able to see from land because it would be down low, below ground level. And then in addition to that, a kiosk similar to the ones that exist at the different trails, like at Fort Point Trail and so forth. So we were all very happy. We had a plan. We chose a spot, and then Terry Brackett says we can't do what we want to do, but we're still working on it because I think it's possible that we can figure out the kiosk. The kiosk was the hitch. So hopefully we'll get the signs.
Okay,
Maybe it could say, welcome to Port Clyde, come again.
Yeah, just like Martinsville, right?
Yeah. Well, did the harbor committee set up another meeting? I don't know that they have.
I don't think they have, although, maybe, they could have a meeting to talk about the grand opening plans or other things on their agenda.
Well,
And-
I'll pop a note to Dan about that.
Okay. Thank you.
You happen to know why the kiosk was,
Well, yes, but it's probably not worth getting into.
you don't have.
It's, square footage of multiple signs on the property and whether the types of signs that are being contemplated fall within the shoreland zone
Okay.
piece of the sign ordinance or not, so.
Yeah.
Yet to-
Signage is very strict in the shoreline zone. So.
yeah, so we're just trying to figure that out.
So like that wouldn't apply at the head of the Fort Point Trail, it's not.
Right,
It's water.
Yeah, except that, some of the kiosks, that the Conservation Commission has are in the shoreland zone. Like the one that was at the marsh, right there in that little, what do you call that little circle
Turn.
drive turnaround? Which isn't there anymore, but, that was in the shoreland zone.
Right, but they didn't also have a welcome to Tenants Harbor.
Right, so that's, it has to do with the square footage and whether they both fall into the same
Yeah.
category and how many square feet you can have. So, so that's what's going on with that. The budget committee has not met. Tammy, the cemetery committee,
The cemetery committee will meet on Wednesday, May 7th, 4:30 at the town office.
all right. The emergency services committee has not met since we last met. The TIF committee has met. And, so the two tasks that they're focusing on are identifying the properties in town that are most likely to increase by the biggest amount when we have our tax revaluation. Because what TIF does is allow you to keep more of the tax dollars when taxes go up. So they were looking at the GIS tax maps and, identifying areas in town where we all think, they're likely to have the biggest jump. So that's task number one, and their second task is to create a list of things on which tax dollars that we get to keep from a TIF program could be spent. Obviously, we all know infrastructure improvements is the big one, but because there are other possible things that can be on the list, they're working on that. So, and they're planning to meet right now every 2 weeks, so they get some momentum going before it's summer and everybody's distracted by summer activities. So they are meeting a week from Wednesday, I think is their next meeting.
Right.
And the comprehensive plan committee, as you know, they, are incorporating the feedback they got from the select board at the workshop last week. And they did get the data from the state, since we had that workshop with them. Unfortunately, it did not include everything we thought it was gonna include, which means that Aaron and Leticia are having to create some maps. They thought they'd be given maps by the state, but I do think that it will be only a few weeks until they bring a finalized comp plan to the select board for approval. And we schedule an informational meeting for the community before it gets submitted to the state.
They have a meeting tomorrow night, don't they?
Yes, tomorrow night is the meeting where we'll be finding out how much has happened there. Conservation Commission.
Okay, they did meet on May 8th, did not have a quorum, so they couldn't approve the minutes, but that was not a big deal. On Zoom, we had a presentation, fairly brief, by Amanda Lindsay from Bates College, who's doing an aquaculture survey of St. George, which could be interesting in terms of potential for our economy, fishing economy.
What's her
And
name? Amanda?
Amanda Lindsay. I assume it's Lindsey. I'm quite sure that's the correct spelling. And it's interesting how these college people get involved with our town. It's useful and helpful. Then in the continuing concerns about dog waste, David Taylor from Shellfish Committee came in and talked at length about that and how, I don't have the figures in front of me, but how a very small amount of dog poop creates a huge amount of pollution and can close the clam flats on the St. George River. So we don't have all the answers, but maybe, you know, public education and just getting dog owners to be more aware and more responsible about that. And let's see, and then finally, this has taken a long time, but at Fort Point, down at the end of the trail, there will be a historically accurate placard coming in. The state had to approve this because it is state land. Placard on the history of Fort St. George's. I think I'm saying that right. So just for fun, I looked up Fort St. George, and there was a Fort George in Brunswick in 1715. There was a Fort St. George in Thomaston in 1720. There was a Fort St. George's in 1808, and that's ours, I think. And there was a Fort St. George way back with that ill-fated Popham colony down in Phippsburg in 1607. And then there was another Fort St. George in Castine in 1779. Apparently they couldn't think of any other names for their fort.
Well, King George was king then.
I guess you had to
Um,
homage to him, yes. Anyway, so that's the report from the,
well, thank you. I know Aaron,
Conservation.
that was something Aaron had flagged in the comprehensive plan to check with the state, which spelling should she be using? The one with the S or without the S? So,
I believe it's the one with the F,
That-
but we'll see what the placard
yeah,
says.
all right, well, thank you. Ken, was that talk by Amanda Lindsay about the aquaculture survey, was that recorded?
Yes, it was.
And will you upload that or is it already in your?
Well, it's in the Zoom, you know, where they get recorded for Zoom. So that's
So,
where it is.
but I guess I'm just
Amanda
wondering.
Lindsay's piece was maybe 15 minutes. And I guess I should say that she's working in collaboration with the Island Institute on that study. And it's also offering aquaculture tours. There was one today. I couldn't attend it, but there was one today. I think Dale Pearson was going to go on it. So if anybody wants to go on one of those tours, they should let me know, because they'll be conducting tours, and they're not doing just St. George. It's all along the mid-coast that survey is going on.
Yeah, thanks for that update and additional information. Ken. Did I leave anything out you'd like to mention from the
Well, I guess
meeting?
the only thing I think is worth mentioning at this point is on the Old Woods Farm, in terms of getting close to getting completed with the LMF.
Yeah.
I understood the agreement with the HOA is back in with Bill Kelly, close to being finalized. And
Yes, we
then,
are in agreement for the first time at least, so now we are just waiting for the document to be prepared.
right, and the other two documents, the conservation easement document, which Bill Kelly has already looked at, and the LMF project agreement, which Bill has also looked at, are being looked at by GRLT lawyers right now. So we're hoping to have those pieces back shortly, which will then combine with the HOA agreement, and then we can go back and everything can go to the LMF legal staff for their review prior to finalizing everything, which at that point, hopefully, the funding will be approved.
Right.
Well, thank you for that update because, you know, it was it was, right before the town meeting last year that we ratified the sale or the purchase of that land. So it's taken a year. And hopefully soon, all that will be wrapped up and we'll get our state grant contribution for that.
Right. I guess the only other thing I would mention on trail maintenance, we're doing the spring maintenance and we've completed, a week ago, we completed the work at the Les Hyde Trail. This past Friday, we completed the work at the town forest. And over the probably next 2 weeks, we're gonna do the Fort Point Trail maintenance. So we'll make, progressing about one trail a week until we get them all completed.
Great, thank you.
More impressive volunteer work.
Yes, no kidding. That committee does extraordinary work. Thank you, Ken. Tammy, the Shellfish Committee.
The Shellfish Committee is meeting on May 20th, 5:30 in Warren.
And how about the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee?
They're meeting on the 21st
Okay,
at the town office at 7:30 a.m.,
all right.
which is a Wednesday.
Van, anything new from
They're
Parks and
meeting
Rec?
tonight at the same time we are.
All right.
Once again, they were scheduled for next Monday, but there was because of the elections, they suddenly moved it to tonight.
Well, hopefully we'll get our calendar coordinated so those don't overlap. And the Resilience Committee,
Is meeting this Wednesday, and are reviewing the proposals that have come in for the engineering. We would like to get started down in Port Clyde.
and I met with, Susie Ellis and Meg Rasmussen about the MCOG Climate Action Plan, grant and proposal in connection with, whether we should have a Colby student help with the climate action plan.
And we're also looking at getting that application for the $5,000 to
Right.
help us with the looking after the grants here within the
Right.
town office.
So I did send, I think I shared that with all of you. I did send an email to the professor at Colby who did say how much the 3 Colby students that we've had working on comprehensive plan have really enjoyed their work with the comprehensive plan committee, and that we all feel sure there'll be a student who will want to work on the climate action plan with Susie and Meg and Aaron in the coming year. So that's pretty terrific to have more connections with Colby and more opportunities for students and free work for us, right? Free help. The Scholarship Committee.
Has not met, but we will be soon, as the deadline for, I believe, all of the scholarships has just passed, and now we will have to review. Sorry, Wendy, I interjected, but I
go ahead.
figured the committee will now have to review, once Irene and I are on the same page about how much can be paid out, which we'll present to the committee, so.
So Irene is calculating what the amount is that can be given
already
in
did.
scholarships.
Irene has already done it, we just have to
I
connect.
already did, the numbers are, I have the numbers in a folder.
Okay. All right, well, then there's one other thing that was touched on earlier, the landing park, that this was actually really funny when Carl Danielson and I went to look at a possible site for the kiosk. Ryan Klein and I had picked one spot out, so then Carl came and I'm like, this is where we were thinking of putting it. Meanwhile, the guys from the transfer station are digging a hole right in the spot we had picked. And we're like, what are you guys doing? Well, Dale told us to dig a hole here because he's gonna plant a tree here. So they're Plan B, immediately changed to a different spot for the kiosk. But anyway, so Dale is coordinating with the guys who are digging holes for the plants that
Oh, great.
he's,
That's really moving then.
it is,
Yeah,
and is the grading finished by Calic or in process?
In process.
Okay, up above, and I did send an email out to as many people as I could think of who, live in Port Clyde and might want to be on either help Dale on planting day, save tax dollars by helping, plant these shrubs and things. And, or alternatively, might want to be involved in a Port Clyde Garden Club. So if you know of people that might be interested in that, have them send me and Dale their contact information, because he's expecting to be planting soon. That's all I know. I don't know the actual date.
It'll be nice, the holes will be full of water the way things are going.
Right? I was thinking that. I had some trees planted recently, and even though I'm sick of the rain, I'm glad I don't have to water the trees.
Yeah.
Do we have any other official business? If not, then I believe that tonight is Van's last meeting as a select board member. So we want to thank him for his service for the last 3 years. And of course, Wendy has brought something special, which Tammy, you're gonna miss out on.
Savor.
So thank you, Van.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I move we adjourn. I move we adjourn.
All right,
Do I
is
have-
there a second to adjourning?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? That's 5. So we'll adjourn the meeting and turn off the Zoom and have treats. Thank you, Van.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And sign this warrant and she's going, where are you going?
She'd be happy to do it.
Yeah.
So I think.
Tammy, whenever you are up for it, if you can come in to sign the school board's budget warrant.
Okay. Okay.
Get better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Tammy, feel better.